Hi, welcome back to my channel on high vibrational living in the new consciousness. Today we're going to talk about how to seek truth from all this varied information that we have access to in this day and age. Hi, my name is Reena, and today we're going to talk about how is it that we seek truth from all this information that we are bombarded with in this day and age as we move into the new consciousness. We're also going to talk about how we can stay in a high vibration whilst getting information from a very polarized world at this present moment. As I've kept saying before, the earth is currently being bombarded by high vibration energy in a bid to move us into a different state of consciousness, into a new state of consciousness. And because of that, a lot of suppressed information and a lot of suppressed emotions are coming up to the surface. And as all this information is coming up to the surface, it is causing quite a lot of discomfort out there. People are hanging on for dear life to all their mental constructs, all their belief systems and cultural conditioning as the new energies are just shaking up the fabric of consciousness, because people are very comfortable with the way they've been thinking. They're very comfortable with the way that they've been living. Suddenly, belief systems being shaken up shakes people down to the core, because a lot of their own values are actually hooked onto these belief systems. And so what they think is truth is actually what has been constructed within the belief system. When I did my psychology degree, one of the favorite courses I attended was called social psychology. And within this subject, the first thing that the professor said is that we create our reality. Reality is a social construction. It's socially constructed based on our words, our thoughts, our conditioning, our values. I was also watching this amazing movie called Backstabbing for Beginners. So it's based on a true story on the Oil for Food program from the UN, where they were selling oil to get money to feed people in Iraq. However, the money was being siphoned to big corporations and greedy conglomerates. And the way that it was all working was through politicizing and backstabbing. But the movie, during the first few frames of the movie, there was a quote which has just stayed with me. It said, "Truth is not based on fact. Truth is based on consensus." This ties up with how reality is based on social constructions. Because what we think is right, what we all agree is right, then becomes what is right. Or what we think is wrong, and what everyone agrees is wrong, thus becomes wrong. And so as we have been brought up with different belief systems and our experiences have given us different ways of looking at life, and as we've been conditioned differently just depending on where we have grown up and based on what people have been telling us, what one person thinks is right may not necessarily be so for another person. And so we're put in two separate camps, and then the person in this camp will look at this person in this camp who believes in everything that this person thinks is wrong and thinks this person is a bad person or this person is not a good person, and vice versa. So, for example, let's just take an issue that is quite prevalent at this moment. Let's take the support of political parties as an example, where someone's worldviews, life experiences, way of thinking may support one particular political party, and another person's will support another political party. And so this person here, who is, say, on the right, will think that my views are right and better than the person here on the left, who also thinks that this person's views are better and right. And so then there is a clash, and then there is duality. And then what happens is that the people whose agendas are being fulfilled because these different people are actually giving consensus to their way of being, to their way of leading, or for whatever reason is meeting their agenda, will try and keep as much support as possible in their separate camps. Because the more support they get, the more power they get. And so they start communicating information to these separate camps as though that information is true, feeding the existing belief system of each person within the different camps. And when that happens, it just reinforces these people's separate worldviews. What also happens is they may feed the information using emotional stances and not so much fact. So, for example, if you have someone on the left who talks about being liberal, and liberalization is the most important thing, whereas someone on the right may talk about freedom, and freedom is the most important thing. But they are dividing the issues based on their specific agendas. People then will buy what is being sold to them separately, because not only is it affirming their worldviews, it's also making them feel good. When the person on the left listens to the opposite information from the person on the right, the person on the left will then again feel emotional, will feel outraged, and will then target anger on the person on the right. And vice versa. The same thing will happen. And the more this happens, the more polarized we will be. The more polarized we are going to be pulled and pushed. And so we become fractured. We become separated. However, that is the way of the old consciousness. As we move into the new consciousness, we're trying to move there in oneness. But in order to do so, we need to deconstruct our mental constructs and our belief systems and our conditioning. The high vibrational energy that is constantly bombarding us at this moment is doing this at a macro level. And so you can see quite a lot of issues coming up to the surface, a lot of conflict coming up to the surface, a lot of protests are happening in the world, a lot of fights. You can see this from a macro perspective, but also from smaller group perspectives like family or individuals or within the workforce. But all this is here not for us to fear. All this is here so that we can detach from it, observe everything, and then we can make our own decisions as to what we resonate with and what we do not resonate with. And the one way to do this is to not be emotionally attached to a perspective or a point of view or a social construct or a mental construct. The new consciousness gives us an opportunity to create and manifest a world that we want to live in. So we have been saying for years and years and years, we want peace on earth, goodwill to all, love for all. And the new consciousness is giving us a blank canvas for us to have the opportunity to create this world where it's goodwill to all and love for all. But in order to do so, we've got to drop our own mental constructs that's separating us from one another. We've got to drop the social constructs that make us think that we're better and the other person is not so good, or the other person is better and our position is not so good. Because at the end of the day, these are illusions. This is something that we believe is true or right, but actually has been constructed. So how can we then sift truth from all the information that we're being exposed to? The first thing that we have to do is to honor our resonance. And by doing that, we can then flow with what resonates with our soul resonance and leave all the other things that do not resonate aside. In order to do this, we have to detach from any emotional constructs that we have about a particular issue or about a particular situation and observe from a detached place. A lot of this may challenge our belief systems. It will definitely challenge our social constructs, and then that will be uncomfortable. But the more we stay detached and the more we observe, we allow these social constructs to just dissipate. And hey, you never know, we may actually learn something new. Maybe the other side actually has a point, or maybe both sides can meet in the middle and move forward in oneness. But all it needs is for an open mind to hear and to understand. Another thing we need to do as well, once we get all this information, is to do our own research. Once we can find aspects that resonate with ourselves intuitively, we can then apply our mind and logic to it and do our research. When I say do our research, I mean look for information from all different sides, because there will be some people who will be against it, and there will be some people who will be for it. But the only way for us to know for sure is to read both sides with an open mind, and then come up with our own conclusions based on our resonance. Sometimes we may not need a rational conclusion. It's sometimes our body, our intuition, our greatest guidance system may actually help us feel comfortable with something and feel uncomfortable with something. And what we feel comfortable with is then therefore what we resonate with. And that is the information that is especially pertinent to ourselves at that time. Once we put our logic and mind to what resonates with us, we can then have knowledge and information. And things will start making sense with our new mental constructs. The third thing then to also look at is our personal experience. Sometimes there are people who will give quite a lot of opinions without actually having personal experiences. And they use more emotive language in their opinions, which will then, like I say, hit people who have already had these mental constructs, who already feel emotionally about a particular issue. But the opinions may not necessarily be based on real life action, on real life experience. So sometimes the people who actually have personal experiences will have much more in-depth knowledge, much more in-depth information than just opinions. Especially in this day of social media and the internet, people have the platform to voice their opinions quite easily. You've got memes that come out, which is very emotive, without necessarily being factual. We can do short videos, which can be very emotive and not necessarily factual. But if you listen to someone's personal experience, what they have personally gone through, then what you can do is glean some information from there that's resonant with you and that we can actually put in our little research box about that particular issue. But bear in mind, personal experiences can also be different for different people. Some people may really enjoy a certain something, and some people may really not enjoy a certain something. So always listen to all sides of personal experiences with a detached view, and then make up your own mind based on what's resonant with your alignment. The last thing I want to talk about is experts. Right now, there are so many experts out there that people draw on to give information, considered information. And these may be scientific experts, experts in their particular field, professional experts. But just bear in mind that not all experts will know what they're saying. We do not know what's behind some of the motivation of why experts are saying certain things. Maybe they're being paid. Perhaps some experts have got a vested interest in that particular point of view. So for example, the more they sell their point of view, the more grants they're going to get. And it'll keep them in their job more. So because we don't know what's motivating the experts, it may not be necessarily 100% correct. I'll give you an example of this. So recently we had an opportunity to purchase a little bit of land at the back of our house. And this opportunity was presented to 8 neighbors. We saw the offer that came to us, and we went and consulted with our own independent real estate agent, who talked to us about the pros and cons of getting this piece of land, and also talked to us about the value of this land, and helped us come up with a different value proposition that would work for us. At the same time, the 6 other neighbors also got their own valuations, but they depended on the seller's real estate agent to determine process. And also they were getting quite a lot of information from the seller's agent as to what could be done with the piece of land behind their houses. Now, when we checked with our independent agent basically said that a lot of what's been said by the seller's agent was not necessarily accurate and not necessarily true because of certain regulations and legal requirements which the current property can't fulfill. Whereas the seller's agent was really trying to sell this. I mean, the seller's agent was working for commission, and she was also doing her best to represent her client. And so when all the neighbors got together, the other neighbors really took what the seller's agent was saying to be gospel, because they were saying she's an expert, because she's qualified, and also because she had expertise in these areas. But what they failed to see was that this particular agent was also being driven by a commission, and also to do the best for the seller, not necessarily represent the buyers. What the seller's agent was also doing was she was using fear to try and get people to put in more money to purchase the land. So things like, oh, maybe more houses can be built on it, or, it could be used for other things. For example, was some of the things that she was saying, so that people would feel the emotion and would then invest more money in purchasing the land. And sometimes experts do this also in the macro world. They try and fill us up with quite a lot of fear so that we support their proposition. If something doesn't happen, if their way is not seen, if their way is not fulfilled, then something horrible is going to happen. The more we listen to fear-based information, and the more we agree with fear-based information, and the more we consent to fear-based information, we are actually buying into a fear-based world. We are creating a fear-based world. But as we are moving into the new consciousness, what we wish to do is we wish to move into a world with love. We wish to move into a world with freedom. We wish to move into a world of expansion. Fear doesn't expand, fear contracts. Fear also controls. It doesn't allow for individuals' freedom. So, again, receive this information from a detached position, so that you can then make a judgment call, or you can make a decision that is fully in line and in resonant with yourself. What I'm saying is, please do not buy into the fear, because fear will drop our resonance. Fear is a dense vibration. And as we're moving into the new vibration, dense vibration is not compatible with the new vibration. And if we wish to create a world that is different from the world we are currently in now, we need to move away from fear and move towards love, oneness, unity, and freedom. So this is an example of a way that expertise can be used to manipulate people to flow and fall in line with a perspective that meets an agenda. It is not necessarily the full truth or even the whole truth, but as long as there's consensus, because there's an expert delivering that piece of information, it then becomes part of our construct. So even if experts are giving you information, just know that we can go and do our research. Just know that if something doesn't resonate with us, please don't do it. Don't listen. If our body contracts when we hear this information, it just means that it's not resonating with us, with our soul resonance. And it's an indication for us to then go and seek more information. You never know. Sometimes seeking more information may support this particular point of view, but it will support it in a way that we are in resonance with. And then we can make the decision to do whatever it is we need to do in line with the information that we've got, in line with the research, in line with what is in resonance with us. And as long as we use our intuition, our resonance, and research to completely make a decision about our path forward, this then creates a really strong guidance system for us. Because nothing can break it, and we have been open to all the information that has come our way. And what may happen if more and more people do this is hopefully the world will become less polarized and will meet in compromise to move forward in oneness. I hope that this video has given you some comfort and hopefully a framework to be able to seek truth according to our resonance from all this information that we have out there. If you wish to get more information about high vibrational living in the new consciousness, please feel free to subscribe to my channel to get more videos by clicking the button below. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.